He was fired over $10, but 1 hour later, a Rolls-Royce changed everything. Ryan Parker, a 25-year-old night shift worker at a small gas station just off the highway, had always believed in kindness. His mother, who raised him alone while juggling 2 jobs, taught him that no matter how little you have, there's always enough to help someone in need. Those words stayed with him, shaping the way he treated people every day. It was a cold November night, just a little past midnight, when Ryan noticed an old, beat-up Honda rolling into the station. The car barely made it to the pump, running on what seemed like fumes. Inside, a woman in her late 30s sat gripping the steering wheel, exhaustion written all over her face. In the back seat, a baby, no older than a few months, was fast asleep, wrapped in a thin blanket. As the woman stepped inside, Ryan could see her hesitating. She clutched her wallet tightly, took a deep breath, and finally walked up to the counter. "Hi," she said softly. "I need to get home to Charleston, but I only have $15. How much gas will that get me?" Ryan quickly did the math. Gas prices had risen, and $15 wouldn't even get her halfway there. His mother's voice echoed in his head, "Help others when you can." Without hesitation, he asked, "How much do you need?" She hesitated before answering, $25 worth. Her voice was quiet but filled with worry. "I just started a new job, and my first paycheck doesn't come until next week. I thought I had enough gas to last, but," she trailed off, embarrassed. Ryan didn't even think twice. He reached for his wallet and pulled out a $10 bill. "Don't worry about it," he said, smiling. "I'll cover the rest." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "I can't let you do that," she protested. "It's just $10, Ryan assured her. "Just pay it forward when you can." Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know how much this means to me." Ryan stepped outside to help her pump the gas. As he secured the cap, he glanced at the sleeping baby in the back seat and felt a sense of warmth. He knew he had made the right choice. But what he didn't know was that this small act of kindness was about to change his life forever. Ryan had just finished helping the woman when he heard the sharp sound of footsteps echoing from the back office. His stomach dropped. He turned just in time to see Carter, his manager, storming toward him, face red with anger. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Parker?" Carter barked, pointing toward the security cameras mounted in every corner of the station. Ryan straightened his back. He knew this was coming. "She had a baby in the car," he said, keeping his voice calm. "She was out of gas and needed help getting home. It was only $10. I covered it myself." Carter's eyes narrowed. "I don't care if she had 10 babies," he snapped. "This is a business, not a charity. You just gave away company resources, and that, my friend, is theft." Ryan clenched his jaw. "It wasn't theft. I paid for it." "That's company time and company services," Carter shot back. "You don't get to make those decisions." He took a step closer, voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "And that little stunt just cost you your job." For a second, the words didn't register. Fired? Over $10? Ryan had worked here for years. He'd covered extra shifts, worked every holiday, never showed up late, not once. He'd helped customers countless times, whether it was jump-starting a car in the rain or lending a few dollars until payday. But none of that mattered now. Carter folded his arms. "Turn in your name tag and clean out your locker." Ryan let out a slow breath. He could fight it, argue, beg. But what would that change? His mother always told him that character shows most in how you handle unfair situations. So, instead of causing a scene, Ryan reached up, unpinned his name tag, and placed it on the counter. "All right," he said quietly. Then, with a small, knowing smile, he added, "I'd do it again." Carter scoffed, shaking his head. "Good luck out there, Parker. Let me know how far that kindness gets you." Ryan didn't reply. He just turned and walked out into the cold night. As he made his way home, hands shoved deep in his pockets, doubt crept in. How am I going to pay for next semester? How am I going to afford rent? But then he thought about that baby sleeping in the back seat, warm and safe. And despite everything, he knew one thing for sure. He had made the right choice. What he didn't know was that fate had something bigger in store for him, something that would make this moment just a small chapter in a much greater story. Ryan had barely been home for an hour when he heard the deep rumble of an engine outside his apartment. He frowned, pushing aside his textbooks and moving to the window. The sight nearly made him drop his coffee. A Rolls-Royce Phantom, the kind of car that looked completely out of place in his rundown neighborhood, was parked right outside. The sleek black vehicle gleamed under the dim streetlights, its chrome accents catching the glow. Before Ryan could process what was happening, the driver's door opened, and a man in a perfectly tailored suit stepped out. He was tall, commanding, and looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not in front of Ryan's tiny apartment. Then, the back door of the Rolls-Royce swung open. Ryan's breath caught as he recognized her, the woman from the gas station. Except this time, she wasn't in a worn-out hoodie, exhausted and desperate. She was dressed in business attire, her heels clicking against the pavement as she walked toward his door. Ryan's mind raced. What is going on? Did I do something wrong? Why is she here? A firm knock snapped him out of his thoughts. Hesitantly, he opened the door. "Mr. Ryan Parker?" the suited man asked. Ryan swallowed. "Yeah, that's me." The man extended his hand. "I'm Matthew Collins. And I believe you met my daughter, Lisa, earlier tonight." Ryan's pulse quickened. "Daughter?" He glanced between them, realization dawning. The way she carried herself, the expensive clothes, the car, it all made sense now. She didn't just come from money. She came from power. Matthew Collins wasn't just wealthy. He was one of the biggest real estate moguls in the state. Lisa gave him a small, knowing smile. "Can we come in?" Ryan stepped aside, suddenly hyper-aware of his cramped living space, the second-hand couch, the cluttered coffee table stacked with college textbooks. This is unreal. Matthew walked in, his sharp eyes scanning the room before speaking. "Ryan, I heard what happened at the gas station. What you did for my daughter, helping her without knowing who she was, expecting nothing in return, that's rare." Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "It was just $10. "No," Matthew corrected, his voice firm. "It was integrity. And I could use someone like you." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" Matthew smirked. "Let's just say your ex-boss, Carter, made a big mistake. And I intend to fix it." Ryan had no idea that his life was about to change forever. Ryan sat frozen on his worn-out couch, his mind still struggling to catch up. Just hours ago, he had been fired over $10. Now, one of the most powerful men in the state, was sitting in his tiny apartment, talking about fixing a mistake. He cleared his throat. "I'm sorry, Mr. Collins, but I don't understand. What do you mean by fixing it?" Matthew leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. His presence was intense, like a man who was used to making decisions that changed lives. "Let me explain something to you, Ryan. Carter, your former manager, had the wrong mindset. He saw kindness as weakness. I see it as leadership." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Leadership?" Lisa, who had been standing near the doorway, finally spoke up. "My father owns Morrison's Gas, the entire chain. Every station in the state. Tonight, after hearing what happened, he made a decision." She glanced at her father before turning back to Ryan. "He bought the station where you worked." Ryan's jaw nearly hit the floor. "You bought the entire gas station?" Matthew Collins smirked. "Not just that one. I bought all 28 Morrison stations in the state." Ryan let out a stunned breath. This was insane. People didn't just buy entire businesses overnight. But Matthew Collins wasn't just people. He was a man who made things happen. Matthew leaned back. "First order of business, Carter is gone. I fired him the second the paperwork was signed. Someone like that doesn't deserve to be in charge." Ryan blinked. "Carter's gone?" Lisa smiled. "I told you, my father doesn't tolerate bad leadership." Matthew then turned his sharp gaze back to Ryan. "Which brings me to my next point. I need someone I can trust to run that station. Someone who understands what real customer service looks like. Someone who knows that running a business isn't just about making money, it's about people." He let the words sink in before delivering the bombshell. "I want you to be the new station manager." Ryan's heart slammed against his ribs. "Wait, what?" "You heard me," Matthew said. "Full salary. Benefits. A leadership position." Ryan shook his head in disbelief. "Why me?" Matthew smiled. "Because when no one was watching, when no cameras were rolling, and when it cost you everything, you still chose to do the right thing. That's the kind of person I want running my business." Ryan exhaled sharply. Less than 24 hours ago, he had been fired. Now, he was being offered the opportunity of a lifetime. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like everything was finally falling into place. Ryan sat in stunned silence, trying to wrap his head around what had just happened. Less than 24 hours ago, he had been fired over a $10 act of kindness. Now, he was being handed a management position, with a real salary, benefits, and a chance to prove himself. He ran a hand through his hair, still unable to believe it. This doesn't make sense," he admitted. "I've never run a business before." Matthew Collins chuckled, leaning back in his chair with confidence. "Neither had I, when I started. But leadership isn't about knowing all the answers, it's about making the right decisions. And you, Ryan, have already proven that you do." Lisa nodded. "You didn't just give me gas. You didn't know who I was, and you didn't ask for anything in return. That's real integrity. And businesses need leaders like that." Ryan swallowed hard. He had spent years working nights, struggling through college, hoping that someday, somehow, he'd get an opportunity like this. But he never expected it to come like this, so suddenly, so unexpectedly. Finally, he took a deep breath and nodded. "All right," he said. "I'll do it." Matthew's eyes gleamed with approval. "Good choice." He stood up, offering a firm handshake. "You start tomorrow." Underscore 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 underscore. 1 year later, the Morrison's gas station under Ryan's leadership was thriving. But he hadn't just kept the business running, he had transformed it. With Matthew Collins' support, Ryan introduced a Pay It Forward program, allowing customers to donate extra change to help those who came up short on gas or groceries. Every case was carefully verified to prevent abuse, ensuring that only those who truly needed help received it. To everyone's surprise, profits skyrocketed. Customers appreciated a business that cared, and in return, they became more loyal than ever. Other Morrison's locations took notice, and soon, the program spread statewide. Ryan, now managing multiple locations, had gone from a struggling night shift worker to one of the key figures in the company. But despite his success, he never forgot where he started. Even now, he still worked the occasional night shift, chatting with truck drivers, helping customers, and making sure that the business never lost its human touch. And in his office, framed right next to a picture of his mother, hung the receipt for the $10 gas purchase, a reminder that one small act of kindness can change everything.